I probably won't. Let's select one and see just what it is. So if I wanted to make them separate, it's easy for me to select it in Max and detach it from the actual model. Let's detach this one. Call this one air intake. We'll call it air intake 1. Again, I'm going to go into isolation mode just to get a better look at that, what that actually is. You see, it's a really simple piece of geometry. It's just meant to be an air intake for the building. You'll sometimes see them on a building as like a grate, like a decorative grate. That's just to allow air to circulate on the inside of the building between the brick and the inner wall. I'm curious though as to why the texture is not showing up. It really should be. Yeah, I have a feeling I'm just using the texture map from one of the sides of the building, so it's very strange. I'm just going to do a quick render here to see if it's Max's viewport not showing it up. No, it's not rendering as a textured object, so that is odd. That's okay, this is something I want to retexture. This is a perfect example of why I would take this into Mari to retexture it anyway. So we have our objects separate there. It has no texture assigned to it, which is fine. We'll paint one in Mari. Let's do an unwrap UVW on it though. Open up our UV editor. Yeah, I can see it here, and I know that this is part of, I think it's either the side or the front. Maybe it's the front. That's why it's actually moved the UVs for some reason. Alright, let's go back to the side. I'm going to select that those UVs there. I don't know if you can see it, but you see in my texture here, there are those air intakes there, and that's what that UV is corresponding to. It may have been this one here at the front. Why Max moved it, I don't know. And I actually like the look of this one better, but I'm going to repaint it anyway, so just to get a base colour down from when I take it into Mari. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to go into my point mode here. Move my UVs up. Don't do that. It's doing that because I have a whole object selected. I want to turn that off. That way I can select just some of the verts and not all of them. I'm going to hold down the shift key with the move key, the move tool. And by holding down the shift key you can strain it in the one direction, you don't move it all over the place. I'm just going to move these down to better match the texture that's underneath of it. Alright. And this is the side view, okay. Gonna jump back into my material browser here. The side view. I'm just assigning that material to it. Now, like I said, I'm going to repaint this in Mari. The only reason I've done this is so I have a base color to work with. Now, what I'm going to do here is collapse my stack. Now, I know I said say to you guys, really don't ever have a hard edge, but for something this small on a building that large, going into a game engine, I'm not going to soften up the edges here. I'm not going to chamfer them. I'm going to keep them hard, because you're never going to see it except from a distance like that, where you're never going to see a smooth edge anyway. And it is going into a game engine. If this was going into Vue to be rendered, then I would say no, smooth them up. But because it's so small, and because it's probably so high on the building, you're not going to notice it. You can reduce your poly counts a bit by keeping it hard, a hard edge. Yeah. That's the only time I would ever let you do it though. Every other time, always make sure you smooth your edges, particularly if you're doing rendering. Now we have to remap the UVs before we can take this into Mari though. So again, we're going to throw an unwrap UVW on. We're going to change though our mapping channel to 2. This will be just a good revision for you guys if you forgot how I used to do it when I was working with the Garden Terrace. We're going to move our UVs across. So we're working in map channel 2. We're going to open our UV editor. We have our UV selected, and I'm going to do a flatten mapping. That just lays it all out nice and neatly for us. Okay, we've done our flatten mapping. We're in UV channel 2, so the original UVs are still there. I always get these things confused. I'm even confusing myself. I think we're going to do a render to texture now, I think. My render to texture is opened up over here. Let me just move it for you. I think most of the time, again, half of my panels here are going to open on my second monitor because I'm used to working with 2. So forgive me if it does. I'll move it over to show you guys. Hi, Westy Goat. I'm not sure what that is. Sorry. What program am I using? I'm using 3D Studio Max. I know a few of the guys that watch my channel, they do use Blender. Blender's a great program, great 3D program. I'm pretty sure, even though what I show you is regarding Max, you should be able to take away what I show you and modify it for use in Blender in some way, shape or form. I haven't used Blender myself personally, and I only use Max because I work in architectural visualization and we use Max in the studio. So I've got to try and, now how do I pronounce that? Is it West de Goat? Or West de Goat? Sorry for mispronouncing your name. The guys that watch my channel know that I'm terrible with your username, so apologies in advance for mangling your username. No problem. And I'm going to be working in Mari to paint up this small part of this air intake to the building. In order to do that though, we need to flatten our UVs so that when we take it into Mari, we won't be over painting parts of the model. West de Goat. Okay, thank you very much for spelling it out like that for me, guys, is really helpful. West de Goat. West de Goat. Got it. Thank you for popping into chat. Remember, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask me in chat. If I can help, I'm happy to. I've worked in 3D for more than 10 years now, so. So yeah, feel free to ask me any questions if you have them. It doesn't have to be about Max or what I'm working on. It can be about anything you're doing regarding art or 3D. I don't know the answer to everything, but if I can help, I'm quite happy to. So we've got our render to texture open here. We've already assigned our UVs to UV map channel 2 so that we can keep this underlying color for our render to texture. So here I'm going to tell Max again to use existing channel. I'm going to tell it to use channel 2, which is the one we did the unwrap on. I'm going to add a diffuse map for it to render to. Now this is a really tiny thing right on the side of the building. I don't want to make a really huge texture map or something like that. I'm going to go to 512 though, by 512. Probably a bit bigger than what we probably need, but I like to have a bit of detail in the texture when I'm painting it in Mari. So I'm also going to set my path here to that new path we created when we got Max to archive all of our models for us. So just here. I'm going to save it as a target image, to keep it consistent, and then we may have to do a conversion to JPEG later. I'm just going to call it air intake. Save that. We'll make it a 24-bit image because I'm not using any alpha maps, so 32-bit is unnecessary. So we're telling Max to use our map channel 2. We've defined our path and we're rendering out a diffuse map. Let's do a render. It's just telling me I haven't assigned it to a slot in my material editor, that's fine. That's our texture map so that when we can take it into Mari. So before we do that though, we have to copy our UVs across. And again, we're going to jump into our utilities tab and go to channel info. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to copy my UVs from channel 2 into channel 1. It's going to mess up our UVs. I'm going to clear out channel 2 now because we no longer need it. Jump into my material editor. Find a spot here that's free. We'll go down the bottom over here maybe. I'm going to pull out a standard map and load in a bitmap, and we're going to load in that render to texture we just did from Max. That one right there. We'll just pipe that into the diffuse channel. Again, I'm going to make sure I show shaded and show realistic so I can see it in my viewport. It'll assign it, and then we get our texture back again. Now we take this texture and this model into Mari, but before we do that, let's save this model out. So I'm going to export and export selected. Again, we're going to jump back into our working folder here. No, that's the actual UE4 projects folder. We don't want that one. We want our models folder. I'm going to pop it in the exports folder here. I'm just going to call it air intake. And you can save it as an FBX if you're working in Mari because it does take FBX, but you guys know I like to work in OBJ, so I'm going to save it as an OBJ. Again, that's just my personal preference, not because OBJ is better than FBX, it's probably not. OBJ you can't do an animated mesh. With the FBX you can do an animated mesh. Like FBX accepts skeletal meshes and that type of thing, OBJ doesn't. So OBJ is fine for static geometry, but if you're doing any animated geometry, stick to FBX. I've just found with FBX, the reason I choose to use OBJ over at FBX usually is I found you've got different versions of FBX. You've got the 2012 version, the 2013 version, the 2014 version, all the way up to the 2017 version now. And I haven't found it as consistent to be able to move my model between different programs using FBX. Some programs will work okay. Other programs will mesh your model up or they'll mesh your textures up and your UV maps up. I've never had that problem with OBJ, and that's why I generally stick to OBJ. I'll be using FBX though when I export these models to take them into the Unreal Engine. So I will use FBX then, but I've just found that if you work with a few different programs, working in FBX can be a bit problematic sometimes, and that's why I stick to OBJ most of the time when I can. So we've saved that out. The other thing I want to do though is I want to move my pivot to the center of the object. That'll just make it easy for me to move around. Again, I should have done that before I did my export, so I'm just going to export it quickly again. There's air intake OBJ. Alright, let's end our isolation mode here. We get the idea. I'll either take that into Mari today or I may wait. We'll see how we go. There's still a few things we need to do on this model. I won't export these up. What I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm going to paint up a texture for that piece of geometry, that air intake. If you guys that were watching me stream when I created the Garden Terrace 3D model saw that I like to make 2 or 3 different texture versions, and that'll give me a bit of variety on the building, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to remove all of the grey ones from the building. I'm going to save out take one version into Mari here and paint it up. I'm going to paint up 2 more different types of textures for that same piece of geometry. When I bring this into the Unreal Engine, I'm only going to bring in that one, and then I'm going to make 3 different materials, and I'm going to swap them around over the building to make it look more unique. So I'll be placing these as, I'll be instancing this piece of mesh in Unreal, and I'll be swapping it out with 2 or 3 different textures around the building. I'm actually not working on a game so much, just for your benefit and for anyone else that may be watching me that's new, because I generally this is the first time I'm streaming in game development. We are going to be working with the Unreal Engine, and I'm going to be remaking this building fly-through that I made using the UDK in 2011. I know you guys that are regulars on my channel have seen this numerous times, but for anyone new, I'll run the video one more time. Just to show you guys exactly what we're redoing here. So yeah, I created this building 6 years ago in 2011 for the UDK. Just as a cinematic fly-through of the building, I was playing with the engine. I wanted to see what it can do. And because we finished our Garden Terrace project last week, and we needed something new to work on, I thought it might be a good idea to take this building again that I made way back when into Unreal Engine 4.5 and see what the changes to the lighting have been made. Because I know that since I did this fly through this building in UDK, they've made a lot of changes to the lighting, and I'm keen to see what improvements they've done. So yeah, this was the old version that was done in UDK 6 years ago. We're going to be remaking this building in Unreal Engine 4.15, and I'll probably do another cinematic fly through like this so that we can compare the two. So that's the plan. So I'm not actually physically making a game, but I am remaking the building in the new Unreal Engine, and we're going to do a cinematic fly-through of the building, like this one. And then we can do a comparison between the two to see what the differences in the lighting are between the engine from 6 years ago and the engine from today. No, I don't use Unity. I haven't actually used Unity. Again, I know Unity is very good for making games. If not, why? I've worked for game studios in the past. I currently work in ArchViz, but the game studios I worked with in the past, and even now I do contract work for a games company here where I create models for them. They use Unreal, and the games work I've done in the past has either used the Unreal Engine or a custom engine that they've created themselves. So I've never used Unity, but I'm familiar with the Unreal Engine, and that's probably the only reason really why I'm going to use Unreal again. So I'm familiar with the engine itself. Sniper Echo says you should have a look back at the last project. Yeah, check out the last project I did, which was a garden terrace that we created in Max. I textured in Mari, then we brought into Eon View and created a 3D environment for, and then did renders and color correction on. All my past streams are under my video section on my Twitch channel, or you can check out my YouTube channel as well. The links are either at the bottom of my Twitch page, or if you type exclamation mark YouTube, I think, in chat, the Nightbot should give you a link to my YouTube channel, so you can find my videos online. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. We're recreating the building so that we can take it into the new Unreal Engine and do a cinematic, basically. I think that's the plan. And what I'm doing at the moment, though, before we take it into the engine, is I'm going to go over these assets because, again, I created them 6 years ago, and some of them need updating. Some of them are a bit old, and they could do with just a bit of a touch-up, make them look a bit prettier. Things like this. I really don't like the texture I'm using on that. Some of the curtains are a bit garish. Maybe I don't mind that curtain. This one does a bit garish. I may keep it the same. We'll see how we go. Again, things like these wooden panels. I do like the texture, but I want to put more detail into the actual model itself, because at the moment it's just a flat plane. And because the engine can handle a lot more polys and higher textures now, I want to make it look a bit better. West DeGoat says, I guess Nintendo is the only big company that uses Unity. I will take a look. Yeah, no, do take a look at the Unreal Engine. It's amazing and it's free. If you make a commercial product with it, you do have to pay 5% to whatever your sales are. But it's completely free to download and install. It's completely free to use if you're not making anything you're going to sell. And if you do make something you're going to sell, you're allowed to earn up to $3,000 US every 3 months before you pay any money to Epic. Anything over that, it's 5% of your gross sales per 3 months. So do check it out. It's a great engine. It really is. I don't want to do a comparison to Unity because I haven't used Unity. I do know a lot of guys use it and they like it. I know Blender integrates really well with Unity. Those two, Unity and Blender, sort of go together pretty well. But Blender is a 3D program. You can use it for Unreal as well. You don't have to use Unity with it. So yeah, do check it out. It's a great program. And like I said, Epic are giving it away for free now for you guys to play around with and use. So no restrictions. Complete program. West D Goat says, I don't like the blue and yellow look it has. You're talking about the curtain. Yeah, I don't think I like it either. Again, this was created quite a while ago. This curtain I don't mind. I think that's nice and tasteful as far as fabric goes. This one though, yeah, I think I may swap out the texture on that. Just something a little bit nicer. And that's just a sheer that goes behind the curtain. Again, things like these decorative pieces on the bottom of the stairs, I don't like them either. I want to retexture them to make them look better. I think they might be a bit big too. West Goat says, yeah, went to an art school and I did black and red. You would have done black and red for the curtains, you think, for an Art Deco building? Maybe. Like I said, I'm going to keep this texture on this curtain, but I probably am going to swap this one out. These textures are actually, that curtain's only used once, I think, and it's in the main foyer of the building. Down at the bottom of the stairs in the main part of the foyer of the building. I think that's the only place I use those curtains. But I really hate Mac sometimes. It's really fiddly. Let me grab an object here so I can move around inside the building a bit more easily. So yeah, the curtains were only used, or they actually were used on the lower part of the building through the main entrance here, and also on the front windows. But I don't like the texture so much, and I'm probably going to swap the texture completely. Oh, thank you, West D Goat. West D Goat. I'm glad you like my work. It always helps if people like what you do. So thank you very much. Yeah, so we're going to update a few of these assets. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start going through my assets and choosing the ones I want to take into Mari to paint up a bit better. And let's start at the beginning and work our way down. Now I know I want to redo this this panel. Again, I really don't like what I did with 6 years ago when I made the texture for this panel. I think it can be improved quite a bit. So I'm going to retexture the panel. The panel is actually in two pieces. There's the outer part and the inner part. This is a separate object. I'm going to keep them separate. I'm actually going to make sure that inner panel fits the inside properly of the frame of the outer panel. And I'm also going to soften up the edges on these. I don't want them at a 90-degree angle. That's even for these you're going to see quite up close because these are on the walls. So I want to make sure that those edges are softer. So let's start with this panel. Just before we do that though, I'm going to take a quick break, guys. You guys know, after an hour I need to freshen up my coffee because it's the thing that keeps me going. I'm just going to go and grab a fresh cup of coffee. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. I'll leave you with some of my epic music on my Be Right Back screen while I'm gone. And when I come back, we'll continue looking at these assets here that we're going to be taking into the Unreal Engine. But we're going to take into Mari first to touch up. So I'll be back in just a couple of minutes, guys, and then we'll continue on. So I'll be right back. Okay. Have my coffee, so I'm good to go. I forgot to shout out a thank you, I think, at the beginning of the stream to Paladin Dev for following my Twitch channel yesterday. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I want to shout out a thank you to Osoadian, I think it is, for following my Twitch channel. Again, thank you very much, guys. I really do appreciate it when you follow me on Twitch. Particularly with the new communities feature that Twitch have going at the moment. If you can't find me, I am going to be streaming under Game Dev at the moment while we're working on this project. But in the future, if you aren't sure where I am, following my Twitch channel is probably the best way to find out when I'm live. You can also keep an eye on my Twitter account because I always post 15 minutes before I go live to Twitter at PhilDoes3D. So thank you, guys. Now, I want to update this asset for the new engine. So what I'm going to do here is, before I actually render it out to text just so we can get it ready to take into Mari, I'm going to isolate the selection because I want to soften up the edges of those of that frame there. Again, please excuse my texture work here, guys. This was 6 years ago, and yeah, it's not great. That's why we're going to be redoing it for Mari and bringing it up to date for 2017. Like I said, not everything I do is gold, so in fact a lot of what I do is not gold. I'm going to convert it to an edit poly. Again, just a reminder for you guys, working in edit poly is always recommended when you're working in a 3D program because you have access to a lot more, you can do a lot more with the model in edit poly as opposed to edit mesh. But do keep in mind that when you export the model and bring it into the Unreal Engine or Unity, I'm assuming it's the same, it's going to triangulate your mesh. Because game engines work with triangles, they don't work with quads. So by all means work with quads in your 3D modeling program, but bear in mind when you export it and bring it into your game engine, the game engine is going to triangulate your mesh, regardless of what it is. Because it's better for the video card, that's the way they work. They work with triangles, not with quads. So just bear that in mind. And what will probably happen too is you'll find that your triangle count will go up higher than what it was when you were working in your 3D program because it's taking a quad, which is a four-sided square, and splitting it down the middle to make two tries. So you're basically going to be doubling your poly count. It's something to bear in mind, something some people can sometimes forget when they're working on their models. For game engines, they think, oh, you know, my whatever it is, my car is only 1,000 polys. Maybe 1,000 polys in Max or in Maya or in Blender, but when you take it into the game engine, it's going to be about 2,000 tries because it's going to split all those quads into tries. Again, with new game engines, less of a problem because they can handle a lot more polygons. I'm going to go into edged face mode here so I can see what I'm doing. I don't want to select the wrong edges like I was yesterday, and that was my fault for not going into edge mode much sooner than I did. Check to make sure I haven't selected anything that I shouldn't have. No, but I do want to select the inner edges as well. Now, a lot of you guys may see me going down here to go into my rotation tool or my move tool. I know from my previous projects, anyone new may be thinking, why am I doing that? I'll explain it again. It's because if I use hotkeys, which I normally do use when I'm working on my own and I'm not streaming what I'm doing, it's a much better way to work if you've got a hotkey. You'll work faster. But for the benefit of anyone that wants to maybe learn 3D Studio Max and wants to see what is going on, I always use my mouse and actually go to to the actual icon for whatever it is I'm going to be doing. And that's just for the benefit of people that want to know exactly what I'm hitting and what I'm doing, as opposed to using a hotkey. You'll have no idea. Again, I just hold down the control key to select more of my parts on the model here. It's control key to add to the selection, and then it's the shift or alt. Control key to add to the selection. So I have my inner edges and outer edges of that frame selected. Let's go into our chamfer. Actually, you can use your chamfer here in the actual in the edit poly itself, or you can add a modifier. I generally like to add the modifier. Again, it gives me more control of turning it on and off. And this chamfer modifier has been updated in Max as opposed to the one that's in the edit poly. This is a newer version, so it's always probably better if you're working in Max to use the modifier on top of the edit poly as opposed to using it in the edit poly, because it's a newer version that Autodesk created. So what is going on here? West Digos is asking, how long does it take to make a game if it's a big project? How long's a piece of string? I know you guys want answers that a simple answer like it's going to take you 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It's really dependent on the game, and it's dependent on the scope of the game and what sort of game it is, and it's a question I can't really answer like that. Yeah, I can't tell you how long it'll take to make a game. I can give you an example of when I've worked for game studios, and when I've made AAA games, worked on AAA games. I haven't made them, I've worked on them. The last project I worked on, which was for Warner Brothers Games, was a 2-year project. So it took 2 years to make that game. That was one of the Looney Tunes games. So generally a game project will be about 2 years. If you, a game studio, usually it's 2 years. But they'll knock them out in a year if they're maybe doing DLC type content for it. But usually it's 2 years. I know that Rockstar Games took 5 years to make the latest GTA 5. Usually it's 2 years though, game studio. But if you're the only person making your game, it may take you a bit longer, depending on how big the game is and what the sort of game is and all that sort of thing. But ballpark 2 years, studios take 2 years to make a game, generally. What are you doing here? And West Digo is saying big like Fallout 4, but one for this or that size. Big like Fallout 4, but 1/4 of that size. So about 1/4 of the size of Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was a pretty big game. Like there's a lot of places to go in Fallout 4. Like the map is quite big. I don't know how long it took Bethesda to make Fallout 4. I know it's taken them a few years, so again, it depends on how many people are working on the game and the scope of the game. But if you're talking a Fallout 4 type game, yeah, you're talking years. Years. You've got to make all those assets, and you've got to make sure the game is as bug-free as you can, even though Bethesda are a bit lax on making sure they do their bug checking properly. It's going to take you years though. Yeah. Even a team of people, it's going to take years. And if you want to use like the Unreal Engine and maybe you're an indie developer, I would never suggest you tackle something like a game like Fallout 4. You need a team of people to work on stuff like that. You want to think smaller and simpler. You can still make a great game, but just not in the scope of Fallout 4. You can certainly make Fallout 4, but you're in for the long haul. So I'm not trying to dissuade any of you guys that want to make the next Fallout 4. I'm just saying that, yeah, it's a big undertaking. It really is. I'm just curious as to why my chamfer isn't working. You're ready? I'm sure you're ready. I'm sure you can do it too, but be in it for the long haul, dude. It's going to take you a while. Making all those assets and, yeah, making sure that everything works properly and runs properly is, yeah, a big job. I know that Bethesda used Gamebryo. I know that they don't like to say that they use Gamebryo because they say they use their own engine, and they have modified the Gamebryo engine quite a bit, so I guess they can call it their own engine. But it's Gamebryo, guys. That's the engine that Fallout 4 and Skyrim run on, Gamebryo. And I've had experience using Gamebryo. I used that the last game studio I worked at. And that's a nightmare to use that game. There's a reason that Gamebryo doesn't exist anymore, that the company went bankrupt, because the engine is no good. I'm sorry, Bethesda, I love your games, I love Fallout 4 and I love Skyrim, but the Gamebryo engine is rubbish. It really is rubbish. Wesley Goat says, he says he's made 450 assets so far. Well, that's pretty good. You must have been doing it for a while then already. 450 assets, dude, it's pretty good. I think you've got a good head start there. But don't forget, you know, once you create your assets, you've got to make your environment, and then you've got to make sure that any scripting is working properly, and depending on whether it's a multiplayer game, you've got to make sure all that code works properly, and it's a big job. It really is. A quarter of the size of Fallout 4, you've got your assets. Well ahead there by the look of it, 450 assets, so just keep at it. If you're working on your own though, it's really going to be a slug. It really is. He says thanks, but they're not textured. Like I've been telling you guys, 3D modeling, the reason I'm on Twitch is to show you my work while I'm working, but to encourage you guys to do 3D modeling yourselves. Same thing goes for game development. I don't want to discourage you from doing it because it's a great thing to be doing. It's the only way you're going to learn. I want you to do 3D modeling even if you think you're no good at it, because you're not going to get better unless you practice. Like I've said to you guys, texturing a model can be just as difficult as making a 3D model. A lot of people think you make it, the most difficult part of 3D is making the model. And that's part of it. But texturing a model is difficult too. It can take time to do it properly. Like I said, you guys have watched me when I created the Garden Terrace. You saw how long it took me to texture that up in Mari. And I like to think pardon me. I like to think I'm pretty quick at texturing, but it still takes a while. You'll get better at it and faster at it the more you do it, and that's why I encourage you guys to try it and to do it. It's a fun thing to do, it really is. And if you think you're no good, you'll get better the more times you practice. And you'll get faster the more times you do it. But yeah, texturing up 450 models, that's going to take you a while. And I would say it takes as long to texture a model as it generally takes to make it, if you're doing it properly. Now, I don't know why my chamfer isn't working there. I'm just going to remove that for a minute and go back to my original stack. Let's see what is going on here. Okay, it's working in the original stack. Don't ask me why. That's some bug maybe in Max. First time I've seen that happen though with the chamfer. Now I'm just looking at what is going on here. Max is behaving out really strangely. That chamfer, you see what it's done? It's pulled it, separated it from the actual model piece. It shouldn't be doing that. It's not actually adding to the front of it. So what I'm going to do here, I think, is I'm going to save my selection. even though I probably won't be able to reuse it. I'm just going to call it edges. And this is a really handy feature in Max as well. If you select your edges or your verts, you can save that selection here and then come back to it at a later date. So if I deselect it, so nothing is selected, I can reselect it just by hitting that group that I made there for it. Just in case you ever want to come back to that selection you had and you don't have to reselect it all again. And you can do that for all of the different modifiers here, whether it's verts, edges, borders, polygons, the whole model is the whole model. So yeah, if you do use Max, do keep that in mind. Some people, it's easy to overlook up there on that bar. People don't tend to look up there so much when they're working down here. But it's a really useful feature to have, to reselect something you've already selected once you deselect it. But I want to look at what's going on with this model. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go into my Utilities tab. I'm going to reset the X form on the model. I'm going to do a collapse all. Now, you guys saw me look at this when I was working with those. Thank you for following the channel West the Goat. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Like I said, guys, I really do appreciate it when you follow me on Twitch. And it'll help you find my channel with Twitch's communities the way they are at the moment. Don't know if my notifications are going off, so I have to have a look at that.